we are focusing on an incredibly important message that I wish all business leaders would come to really comprehend in a powerful way. And that is that doing good is actually the competitive edge your business has been missing. The reason why I think this is such an important topic for us to explore and to sit with quite a bit is that for far too long we have had this really warped view of what the role of business is. We have had this notion of business being about profit maximisation, about focusing solely on the shareholder, and making all other things an externality, making them things that we don't really have to take into consideration, we don't have to take responsibility for, and we can push off to be someone else's problem down the track. We are very much in a position now where that is no longer an option as a business leader. It is not simply about saying we all need to be motivated by the exact same things. It's not saying that every single business leader is now going to suddenly be an environmentalist or driven by a sense of the meaning and purpose of a bigger vision for what you want to be part of in the world. I'm not that naive. But my argument is that regardless of where you currently are sitting in terms of your personal motivations, beginning to think about this idea of doing good being a competitive edge for your business is one worth considering. So one of the shifts that we are seeing when we think about the growing conversations around things like impact or ESG in terms of the environmental, social and governance aspects of business, which you will no doubt have heard becoming more and more of a topic of conversation in the business world. What is actually happening there is a shift away from this one-dimensional approach to business, so that piece I mentioned before, of seeing businesses' role as just being about profit maximisation. The shift we're seeing now is to realising and accepting that there is not a one-dimensional aspect to business, but in fact there is complexity. There are multiple dimensions that will play into whether or not your business is successful. And so when we think about that, some of the aspects that we need to be taking into consideration in this multiple dimensions are things like the business environment that you operate in, the competitive landscape, some of those aspects around regulation and compliance that are becoming demands on you as a business leader from the outside in. Then there are the critical and very loud growing voices of both customers and employees and their demands and expectations of us as business leaders, which are rapidly changing. So when we start to take on board and be honest about how many different things we have to take into account, it is now naive to think that you can continue to operate as a business leader in that one-dimensional role of focusing purely on profit maximisation or focusing solely on the interests of the shareholders. That is not an option moving forward. On the environmental side, we're looking at, from a both positive and negative sense, how are your actions, your decisions and your practices as a business having an impact environmentally? When we shift into the social space, we're looking at that broader sense of stakeholders that I mentioned. So there's this relational web, if you like, that includes now our customers, our employees, our suppliers, and the community. And from a governance perspective, we're moving beyond this ticker box exercise and we're tapping into how governance done well, governance that embraces genuine diversity. And when I say that, I mean diversity of thought, experience, background, and orientation. When we have this broad sense of diversity within our governance structures, we actually de-risk our business. And importantly, we also open up the opportunities for innovation. And that is through governance now having this broad sense of different perspectives, different ways of looking at a problem or opportunity. And so it has this beautiful mix of both de-risking the business because of the way we now can anticipate and run scenarios and think strategically, and also opening up the innovation within the organisation. So these triggers or changes that we're seeing, they're coming in a range of different ways. 3 of the ways that I'm seeing this shift happen for business leaders. Firstly, one of the triggers can be a personal one. So I am engaging with a whole bunch of leaders around the world who are finding themselves at this crossroads where they are asking the questions around, is this actually all there is? They are already successful. They are running an established business that is doing well. And while they may have the financial freedom in place, what they are not feeling is that sense of fulfillment or purpose. And so these questions around looking at business in a more holistic way and starting to integrate some more of what they actually care about and who they are as a person into their business is a shift that many business leaders around the world are having. One of the other triggers that is occurring in the massive area of family businesses is that there are new questions. There are these ideas being raised with alternative ways of both operating, thinking, or concerns about the current way that a business is being operated. So these, whether it's multi-generational, sometimes it's a different generation asking different questions, and sometimes it's just individuals within the family that are now starting to reflect and think differently. And so the questions they are raising or the things they are now realizing they're uncomfortable with are being pushed to the surface. And the third pattern or trigger that I'm seeing that is shifting the way people are engaging with this idea of doing good, being a competitive edge, is that there are external pressures driving it. And with this category, we have both the aspects of customer demands and expectations. The shift that's occurring there is also tapping into employees. So potential employees are asking different questions and expecting us to have answers. Current employees are wanting to feel that pride in association with the organisation they work with. And they not only want you to be able to answer these questions, but customers and employees want you to be able to back it up with examples. So you need to not just have a great answer that looks good on the surface. You need to demonstrate in practice, what does this look like in your organisation? That shift is a big driver. And the other external driver that we are seeing more and more as business leaders is around the areas of compliance and regulation. So whether it's around things like as basic as your insurance and risk assessments, or whether it is about the external questions being asked when you're trying to take on investment. There is a new scrutiny. There are new questions and expectations that are coming at us externally as business leaders. So they are 3 of the triggers or the prompts that are making some of these shifts occur. The first is to get really clear on what is most important to you as a business leader. So what are the values? How do you behave? What's the culture you're creating? And what do you want to be part of contributing to? These aspects, which if you're the business owner, can be quite personal to you as an individual. If you're a family that owns the business, then it's more as a collective, thinking about and having these conversations together and saying, what do we value? What are our values? How do we actually want that to play out in the way we show up in the world? If you're a business leader, then this piece is around looking at the business itself and asking these questions around what are the values of the business? What is the culture we are creating? How do we behave here? And what do we want to be part of contributing to? So the first piece is really that internal component of the drivers, the things that are foundational, and that if we can get clarity on those, they provide us with this beautiful filter to make decisions and to prioritize what we're doing. The second step is to say, when you look at your current core business, so not nice little things on the side that you currently see as your attempt to do good or contribute, but I want you to look at your core business. So second step, when you look at your current core business, where do you spend the most money? Where do you have decision-making rights, or at least some influence? These two questions related to your core business and the identification of where those pieces sit is a critical second step. The third step that you then move to once you have clarity in those first two areas is to bring it all together. And what I mean by that is to say, based on your values and your commitments around where are there opportunities to align your business strategy to what you care about, we want to start to spot those patterns. So we now have clarity of what we care about, what our values are, what we want to be part of contributing to. We now have got very clear on where are we spending the most money, where are we making decisions and having influence and control over how things play out. When we bring it all together, we want to find where that overlap is. And we want to see where are there places where we could actually align that business strategy to what we care about.